And time now for the markets with Layton, and hog prices are getting some spillover support from the cattle sector.
That's right, Amy, and we'll have some analysis of the pork trade towards the end of the segment. Also ahead this week, there is plenty of wheat to sell around the world. The nearby corn supply is being described as tight, and the total number of cattle on feed is up 2%. John Michael Riley will be along with some analysis. We begin with the row crops, where there is reluctance on the part of some analysts these days to finalize the price of new corn as far as marketing. Overall, demand remains strong, and the trade does expect at least some increase in the U.S. corn acreage this year. Analyst Virgil Robinson recently laid out his game plan for corn on the Market to Market program.
And I've been in areas of late where new crop corn price is at or very near the cost of production in some areas. So clearly, and I think we've discussed this in years past, I'm always a little bit reluctant to finalize the price of new crop under these circumstances. So minimum price option strategies, and I know there's an expense attached to that, are more appealing and more flexible in my mind.
Poor export demand is a problem over in the rice sector these days. Analysts note this commodity has been unable to establish any solid upward momentum this week. Apparently, many traders don't expect that to change much until some export business shows up. Upside potential in the near term is limited, according to some trade commentaries. A drop in rice plantings for 2012 is anticipated. DTN even notes that if there is a smaller crop, price prospects for rice could improve later in this year. Well, as for wheat prices, they have been relatively high, especially in Kansas and in Minneapolis. Analyst Mark Gold notes that farmers are responding by trying to plant more wheat, but he doesn't think that's going to work out too well price-wise.
But the problem is everybody around the world's been planting more wheat. Now, you've had some isolated problem areas. Certainly the cold weather in Russia has been a factor. But for the most part, we haven't seen them really pulling back on the export market. We've got a lot of competition out there. Interesting that even Iran is trying to get wheat from Pakistan this week, whether or not they get it or not in some kind of oil swap. But the fact of the matter is there's demand out there for the wheat, but we've got plenty of wheat around the world to sell.
Let's look at this week's trivia quiz. Before we move into the livestock markets, we were talking about rice exports just a moment ago. Here's a related question. What is the top export market for U.S. rice? Your choices are Canada, Japan, Iraq, or Mexico. You'll find out right before our feature story. Placements were down, the number of cattle on feed up in the new government numbers out on February 24th. Some analysts, like DTN's John Harrington, worry that economically stressed consumers may back away from beef in coming weeks in favor of a cheaper alternative. Thursday morning, I asked Extension economist John Michael Riley for his outlook, starting with that recent cattle on feed report. Was the cattle on feed report pretty much on track with what the market was expecting?
It was within the range of expectations. Cattle on feed, February 1, right at just over 11.8 million head, which was a 2.1% decline from the same time last year. The average market expectation would look for it to be 2.5% above. The number was right there on the bottom end of that range of expectations. So many, including myself, were looking for the report to be moderately bullish when the markets opened back up on Monday. Some other factors were in play there, but because it was on the low end of the range of expectations, it was still with expected, but still on the low end.
All right, backing up a little bit before on feed, I know we had a cold storage report also there in the latter part of February. Did that indicate kind of a slowdown as far as beef sales?
We are definitely seeing a slowdown. Cumulative slaughter is definitely below year-ago levels. And the cold storage report also alluded to this as well. The fact that this tight supply situation that we've slowly been creeping up on for a number of months is starting to come to fruition. We're starting to see that in numbers in numerous reports. There's not going to be a lot of beef as we continue to move through 2012.
All right, and again, another factor, this issue of consumer demand. Of course, gasoline prices are going up. People may be having to cut back some. Is that going to spill over into beef?
it is that when I talked about the other factors at play in the market on Monday, that was one of the biggest things, is that consumer demand is a big concern with these expected rising gas prices and other things that are going to crunch a consumer's wallet. That is going to have an impact. The good thing is we are seeing a robust exports, 7% above year-ago levels. So the export market continues to be a silver lining, but U.S. Domestic demand for beef is probably facing some crunch time as we move into the summer months with higher gas prices.
We conclude the markets now with the pork sector, where more hogs in the U.S. herd are the big story. Export business, analysts say, could be better. Analyst Walt Hackney recently put this sector in perspective for market to market.
I think that the hog thing has got to be addressed in return of cash flow to the hog producer. Everybody has been waiting impatiently for export to increase. It hasn't necessarily done that. The producer caught on back in the midsummer when the corporate mega producers were building hogs on the feeding floor, wait, anticipating export. That's what they're doing today, is building weight with the producers.
Well, just enough time in the markets to answer this week's trivia quiz before our feature story begins. Well, the answer this week is D. In calendar year 2007, Mexico was the top export market for U.S. rice. This information from the USA Rice Federation.